Good morning, Courtney. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me this morning. I'm always so excited to speak with graduates about their Fashion Lab experience, and I'm grateful that you've taken the time to chat with me because I know you can be so busy.
Well, I'm glad to be here. It was an awesome experience, and I'm glad to be able to help.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so before we dive in, could you tell me a little bit about you and your business?
Sure. So I am in the supply chain logistics business, and we have a focus on the apparel industry. So we help very large companies with project planning, bringing product in from overseas and finding a place to store it until it's ready to be shipped, as well as shipping and all of the packaging processes that can go along with shipping.
Okay.
We also are in the insurance restoration industry, and we have a focus there on apparel as well. We help customers get their lives back together after they've had a house fire or a water damage and their clothing and fabric items have been affected. So we clean everything in their house made of fabric.
Oh, nice, nice, very interesting. You know, we always talk about how expansive the apparel industry is, and that's just another area of it right there. That's really
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. All right. So just a little more. How we're gonna do this is talk about like your mindset and experience in the beginning, and then transition to the middle, and then finally to the end of the program. So my next question for you is, as someone who was already deeply embedded in the textile industry and your own facet of the apparel industry, why were you interested in studying fashion?
So the reason I was interested in studying fashion, with the fact that I had already been kind of really involved in the apparel space in the past, is because it was just another opportunity to learn more about, other aspects of the industry to where we could expand our service offerings for our customers beyond just what we've been doing, which is cleaning and packaging and helping ship. This is actually, I felt like there was a chance that onshoring was going to become a thing again. And I've noticed that there's a lot of factories who have needed someone who's here in the US to be able to do corrections, like maybe swap out care labels, or change something about a garment that had already been created somewhere else and was brought here but was not able to be sold in the stores at that moment. So I kind of saw an opportunity there, and I just felt like it was a great opportunity to learn more about clothing, which was something that we've obviously been very involved with as well. Though I always felt like with apparel and with sewing and with design that it's a lot of it's really a process builder. It teaches you engineering and architecture and commonalities in terms of problem solving, which you find a lot in the supply chain logistics and in project management. Understanding how to start a project and what the steps are going to be to move forward through the process, so that you end up with an efficient process that you get on the other side and you can possibly scale it. That's kind of why I wanted to get involved in it. And I feel like that kind of stayed true throughout the whole process. So, in the beginning, it was a lot of learning pattern making. In the middle, it was more adjusting and learning how to take something that you've already made and continue to refine it. And then the end, it was more of a creative process of actually just starting something from scratch, from a drawing, and turning it into an item. And I think the experience that I received through that process has been amazing already. I mean, I'm already using it in my job now. So it was a great experience from beginning to end.
That's good to hear. So you mentioned that you felt like there were some opportunities, maybe with onshoring and other opportunities in the apparel industry, and you wanted to prepare yourself. Why did you feel like there might be some other opportunities? Was it like a gut feeling, or was it something that you were noticing just by being in the industry?
I was noticing things. So we would receive calls, hey, can you help us? I've got 40,000 shirts, and I think that those care labels were sewn in incorrectly. We're not sure if the sizing was right. Can you help us do inspections and fix the problem once we figure out what the problem is? Our job is to fix problems for people. And so, there was just a lot of problems like that were coming through. And then I would have people in the industry say, hey, do you have any assets or resources for sewing? I have, I have jeans that are 90% made, but they want to be able to say that they were made in America. So they're looking for a contract sewing location to, to finish these jeans so that they can say that. Things like that were kind of popping up here and there. And I'm not sure if you're familiar. Have you seen, how the resale trend has really hit big, especially with like high-end handbags and shoes and accessories like Hermes scarves and Chanel purses and things like that. So there's been a resale market for a while, and it's a really, I did a presentation a few years ago for the insurance industry on the resale market. And I just noticed that market was really starting to expand in a lot of other ways. And so like a lot of the very large companies that are out there right now, the large apparel companies, are trying to figure out how to not have to produce so much waste. So the apparel industry is already kind of known for, how it can kind of pollute water with creating denim and things like that. A lot of the apparel companies are trying to find a way to improve that and to clean up their environmental act, I guess you would say. And so 85% of clothing right now goes into the landfill. And so there are a lot of really big initiatives to try to prevent all of those goods from going into the landfill and finding a way to reuse them again and recycle them, upcycle them, downcycle them. And so upcycling is really, taking things and making something better out of them than how they started. Recycling is either using again and repurposing, and then downcycling is like breaking up something that was once a nicer item into lower grade materials that can be used in a different way. So taking denim jeans or, poly cotton blended outerwear and turning it into a car upholstery, things like that. So I just noticed there were a lot of different kind of elements that were involved in the apparel space that seemed like they were trying to find a solution locally for a local problem. And I think, there's such a drive right now for made in America and for handmade and for handcrafted that there's just a really big appeal for items to be, upcycled, taken from an old lady's dress and turned into something that's really cute and current and kind of chic. And so, I just saw a lot of trends like that were happening. And I felt like for me to be able to compete in the space, I needed to have a baseline understanding of how these items are made and what it's not just how do you sew a blouse together. It's, what's the bust measurement supposed to be? What's a waist measurement supposed to be? How do you determine what should have been the right bust and waist measurement? There's just so many different small variables that can have such a very expensive impact if they're done incorrectly, or if you can help someone correct something that was done incorrectly. So I don't know. I saw a lot of context clues in the environment, but it's still just a gut. I'm not really sure if it'll ever really
It sounds like you have a keen eye or a key understanding for seeing opportunities and trends in the space and then being able to capitalize on those. And that's essential for being a good businesswoman. So just listening to you, that's kind of what I'm picking up from what you're saying. You saw like the glimpse or glimmer of certain opportunities and you wanted to prepare yourself to maximize on them.
Exactly.
Good. Okay. All right. So maybe you answered some of this already, but before joining the Fashion Lab, what were some of the frustrations that you had?
Oh my gosh, there were so many. So I tell everyone I wear pants. I never was able to find comfortable pants. In fact, I have worn dresses and skirts my whole career because I just never was able to find pants that I felt like I looked attractive in, that were comfortable, that didn't cut me off at the waist. So that was one of the very first things that I think I was 4 classes in, and it was like we had just done the pants class, one final class where we put a pair of pants together, and I was like, I can make my own pants now. And then we did a pattern making class where we did a pair of like slacks or something, and we modified the slacks down. And I just remember being so excited to finally have a pattern that was a working pattern where I could make my own pants, and I didn't have to spend 20, 30, 40 hours shopping for the right pair of pants and then still feel like they weren't the right fit and have to take them somewhere to get them altered and wait for weeks. I just felt like having the experience and the understanding of how to actually make a garment was going to give me a lot of time back. And I know that sounds crazy that you'd invest 2 years in a program in order to save time, but it was, I don't like shopping. I don't like having to go to the store and, get in front of fluorescent lights and try on 75 pairs of pants and lug them around and find a place to put them back on the rack. I hated it. So that was one benefit. And I think there have just been so many, like I was, I would have ideas, but I really wasn't sure how to execute on them. And then even ones I did execute on, so I would make shirts and they would look so cute on the outside, but then you would see like you would see something wrong with them. You could tell they were handmade in some way. And I just wanted to have a really professional look to the stuff that I was doing. And I had made a lot of really complicated upholstery items for my house, like a lot of really cute slip covers for chairs and things. So I knew I had a skill set and a talent for it, but I just could not figure out how to take it from, homemade to professional. And it's really funny. It's just a few little skills that are, pressing and serging hems, and then doing an overstitch to tack it down, things like that you just don't always know. So there were a lot of problems that I was trying to solve when I came along.
Yeah, it sounds like a business problems and then personal as well.
Yes, exactly.
All right, okay. Did you research any other schools before joining Le Fashion Lab?
I did. I wasn't planning to join for a whole 2-year program. I just wanted to get some basic sewing skills under my belt. And so I researched a lot of like local sewing classes. And I looked at 30 or 40 different options. And I just felt like this one, at the time you guys were doing like Saturday programs where you didn't have to be a part of the full curriculum, but you could piece it out as you went. And so your curriculum just sounded the most like thorough and complete. And then I really liked how you had such a small classroom, because I felt like, if I have a problem, I don't want to have to wait an hour for someone to look at my machine and figure out what I've done wrong before I can move forward. And I feel like that's what would happen if I was in a class like with SCAD or, or not necessarily that program, but just any really big program was going to have that problem. So I did a lot of looking on the sewing class part. And then when I decided to commit to a 2-year program, I looked at the local, competitive options as well as some of the online programs. And I just felt like this would be the place where I would get the most attention.
Got it. Yeah, I remember you not really thinking that you could commit to a 2-year program. Could you tell us a little more about that?
Well, yeah, I have an 8-year-old. I have a husband, and I have a very busy business life. So I just felt like, I would do it for a while and life would just get in the way, but it actually, it was easy to stick to. I think it was mainly because it was just so much fun. It was just, I was always learning something, and I felt like there's a lot of value to what I was learning. And I felt like it was just a really fun environment. So you look forward to it all week. I look forward to it all week, where, when I was in college and going to school, I didn't necessarily look forward to going to class every single day. So I think that was the big difference.
Okay, good. All right, very simple question. In your opinion, with the right effort, can someone who has truly never sewn before still thrive at the Fashion Lab?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Got it. Okay, so we talked about like what you were thinking in your mindset before joining the program. Let's transition a little bit more to the middle of the program. in general, was the experience and the classes that you took, were they as you anticipated or imagined they would be? Or maybe you didn't have any anticipations or expectations?
I really didn't know what to expect. I'd done a couple sewing classes before, so I knew it was going to be, 10 people sitting around a sewing machine with an instructor. Kind of had that understanding, but I think what surprised me with the classes was the level of complexity that's actually, it's a complex thing to learn how to sew a men's dress shirt or to make a women's, bustier top. Like those are not simple projects. And so I had expectations of being able to learn to do those things, but I don't think I ever really thought about how the flow would go of what that would look like, what that experience would be. And it's like, it's incredible that you're walked through every single step in that process. So I didn't really have any specific expectations for what the middle would look like, but I felt like it was very well executed on La Fashion's part. We definitely were able to, see something on, Project Runway and make it yourself in class at some point throughout the program. So it was
a good experience.
Yeah, it was a great experience.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there anything, you already said you didn't have any expectations, so maybe you can't answer this question, but was there anything different than you expected?
I did not go into the program hoping to learn to do illustration. So I didn't even know that was really going to be a part of it. I guess I did when I looked at the syllabus, but that was not what I had sought out, but I really enjoyed that. And I'm surprised at how that's one thing that I'm pretty shocked about actually is, I could draw before, but it had been 20 years before I'd done any drawing. And then, my drawings now, they look like a professional drawing, after those classes. And, it's a matter of understanding the tools and understanding the techniques and just following the process. But, that was a shock to me, was how effective those classes are. They were frustrating, don't get me wrong, because that was outside of my comfort zone. Like they were not, it didn't come naturally to me. But the fact is, even if it doesn't come naturally to you, if you follow the process, then you can actually draw something pretty incredible. So I was really happy about that.
Good. Nice to hear. I do remember that first class you took and they came out so adorable, just like your first time. I'm like, yeah, you have a knack for it.
Thanks. Yeah,
I remember them. All right. So kind of big question for you, but how has your perspective, knowledge, and skills changed? How have those changed as you went through the program?
Can you say that for me one more time?
Sure. How has your perspective, your knowledge, and your skills changed as you went through the program?
That's interesting. So I just had our first design/sewing project, right? And we had to take 200 men's dress shirts and turn them into women's crop tops that had open backs. And then the material that was cut off the bottom was used to make ties. And I felt like I just remember feeling, I was outside and people would have questions. My role was kind of like the technical director. So I had Gayla actually help me with the original design and map out exactly how we needed to go about the process. And then I would be in the facility answering questions, inspecting the quality, and figuring out the proper processing steps to scale it across multiple sewing machines and multiple people that were working those sewing machines. And anyway, I just remember thinking, there's no way in the world I would have been able to do this had I not gone through that program. There's no way in the world I would have known how to solve all of those problems and what the expectation should be. I was able to look at an item and tell if it was done by someone who was professional or not. And I knew exactly what to look for. I knew exactly what the weak spots were going to be. So for me, it just has really given me a trained eye. And I think that that's something that's very hard to come by. I don't think most people in the fashion world really have that discerning eye. I mean, the people who are classically trained, I guess I'm saying, do. And then I think it's hard to pick that up if you're not kind of classically trained. So I think from a design perspective, you know, my use case for this program was a little different than others. I don't know that I'll ever actually, you know, design a line and have it sold in a store. But I think if I were to do that, like, I think right now I would be able to consult brands on how they need to improve to make their quality to the standard that they're trying to, you know, promote their brand. And, you know, so like, what are the processing issues that they're facing in their facilities, and how could they improve them, you know? And I just don't think that those are, I think it's almost like it's a very esoteric knowledge base, very esoteric skill set, where you almost have to know it before you can know it. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just it's just, it all comes together at once after you've learned all of these different things, and then once you have it, you reach critical mass, and there's just so much you can do with it. But if you don't go through the process, I think it would be really hard to get there.
Spoken like a true project manager, Courtney.
Oh, you think?
Yeah. You know, you mentioned this earlier, so I'll just transition to this next question. You mentioned frustrations when you were going through like some of the sketching classes. Tell us a little bit more about some of the frustrations and challenges you faced in the program.
Well, with those classes, it was really just, you know, you knew what you wanted to accomplish, but making your hand actually draw the line exactly right was hard. I don't know why it was hard, but it was hard. And then I think, you know, like, we had COVID that hit in the middle of some of our stuff, and that just obviously made things very hard. But I mean, I think the biggest frustrations I felt were, I'll never forget, I pulled out my ruler set that first day, and I was like, a curvy ruler, like a curvy ruler, like how can you even have a ruler that's curvy? That doesn't even make sense to me. And I was just like, what am I getting into? And then the whole, like, you know, draw, you know, square a line and go, you know, 13.38 inches from, you know, from A to B. Like, I was just like, what? It took me a while to be able to kind of like bring it in and see what is the purpose of all of this, and what are we doing here? And we're making a pair of pants. Like, how are we going to end up with a pair of pants off of a bunch of measurements? Like, there's that kind of stuff was really intimidating in the beginning. I don't think I would say it was necessarily frustrating. It was really fun to learn. And then when you walk away from it, you're like, wow, I can do something. No one else can do this. No one else can do this, you know? But it was definitely it was very daunting to start with, seeing those, you know, seeing that pattern making book. And then I think too, you know, there were times when you would want something to go right on an item. I made an item out of a material, it was a chambray skirt, and I had this really cute top stitching on these 3 seams that went down the front, and I did something wrong. I don't even remember what it was, but trying to pick out that stitching and redo it ruined the whole item. Like, the material was just the wrong material for the item. And it just didn't withstand a lot of extra work and manipulation. And that was super frustrating. And I think, you know, like, and I've mentioned this to you before, that's still the one place I feel like I have a blind spot, is picking the right fabrics for an item to make it look like it's going to be a high quality item. I still get a little frustrated with, I go to the store, I think something's a pretty material, I bring it home, I try to make something out of it. I've spent 15 hours on a garment, and the material was the wrong material. And so now it looks cheap. It doesn't look what I had envisioned in my mind. That's probably the only frustration that was a true lingering frustration through the process, was that whole knowing how to pick the right material, just because I don't like to waste time.
Yeah. Maybe that's it too, because you're super efficient. But you know, I've told you before that even in big industries, like working at Target, working at Abercrombie, sometimes we have things made in multiple fabrications just to see which one executes best. Which is it's a little easier if you are not the one that's sewing the garment, you know, so all you have to do is wait for somebody to deliver the garment to you in challis and deliver it to you in cotton, and then you see like which one looks better. But it's definitely going to be more difficult if you are the one doing the actual sewing. So yeah, that's just a matter of patience. But like I think you know at this point, this entire process takes a lot of patience, and sometimes in the process of making something, it doesn't go like the way you would want it to go, but then you just try again. Yeah, but we can keep working with textiles. If you ever have any questions about that, you can let me know, and then we can see if we can troubleshoot or brainstorm which would be the best fabric to move forward with.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, and I agree. I don't know how you could, I don't know how you could really teach that, because it really is so about the design, I mean, a pair of pants is not a pair of pants is not a pair of pants. It's just not. And certainly a blouse is not. You can have so many different weights, and you can have so many different, maybe something that's going to be heavier is going to fall in a really cute way, and maybe something that's light is not. But you're right. I don't know that you can really know it until you actually start. But
yeah.
I don't.
You're right. There's
an opportunity to go to a facility and see how fabric starts and what it turns into, kind of a thing, like having a bolt and then seeing an item that has been produced from that bolt. That maybe there's something there, but I don't know. It's very case by case basis. So
yeah, I totally get what you're saying though, and there is in this world a lot of learning through making mistakes, and that in itself can be frustrating and challenging. Yeah, even as a child learning art, that can be frustrating too, because art takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of patience. If you can even imagine people back in the day doing pointillism, which is making these grand paintings just by little tiny dots. It takes a lot of patience, in general. But I think at the end of the day, it's fulfilling and gratifying when you see the end result. So yeah. Okay, let me see what my next question is. Oh yeah, so how much time would you say that you spent practicing per week?
I really didn't have a lot of extra time. I think I would have gotten a lot more value out of the program if I would have spent more time practicing. But to be truthful, I very rarely spent time outside of class on projects until really the very end. Like if you had you had had us do like some collection, our drawings, and then we'd have to map out the materials and everything and kind of put it together. I did that out of class, and then I did all of my final design items out of class for the most part. But other than that, I really didn't spend much time out of class.
That's very interesting. Yeah, that's interesting, because we recommend for the 2-year program, I think we recommend at least 5 hours per week. But that's interesting to know. Yeah. Okay. All right. What was the most exciting thing you learned or accomplished? If you can boil it down to one, maybe you have to think of more than one, but what would you say?
I mean, I honestly think I'm most proud of some of the drawings that I made. And then I really I've made probably 15 skirts for myself since I started this program, and I've gotten so many compliments on them. I feel like it's just opened me up. It's given me a lot more options for my own wardrobe, and a lot more, I don't know, there's a lot that was really exciting about it for me. But the fact is, going to, I have to, usually if I'm wearing a skirt or dress at this point, it's to a trade show, which hadn't been in a year, but prior to it would be pretty often, like 6 or 8 a year. And I would always have a cute skirt or something that I made myself, and then people would be like, "Oh my gosh, I love that!" And I'm like, "Well, thanks, I made it." And they're like, "You're kidding? Are you serious? You really made that?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so that was always really fun for me, and I think still will be the most fun out of this whole thing for me, is being able to make things that precisely fit me, because I'm not super thin, and I'm not everybody's body is different. Mm-hmm. So understanding how to fit my own body, I think was just the best part. That's the biggest takeaway for me. The skills and everything from a business perspective, of course, I appreciate. And I think the other thing that is surprising to me was how much I have been able to use the class on fabric, like fabric construction. I've been quoted in a couple different sources at this point for, you know, a couple, like dropping a couple facts that I learned in that class. So I thought that was pretty cool. You know,
That is pretty cool. I mean, you're now a master, you're a consultant, and you know, your wisdom is just being published and put out there. So that's cool.
it was kind of neat.
That is cool. All right. I think I asked you this question already. So, but I'll just ask again. And if you've answered already, we'll just repeat. But what were some of your favorite subjects or classes?
I love pattern making. I love the process of pattern making, and any of the classes where we were doing something that would take an item that could have been very plain, but you slash a line through it and you add a seam allowance on both sides, and now all of a sudden you've got a design detail on the item. Like I thought that was really cool. I really, even though I've had trouble with both of the blazer classes, I got to the very end and I still didn't finish either of those blazers. And that, you probably need to cut this out. But like, I have loved the process of learning how to make blazers. And I'm going to finish that one, my jean blazer, next week, because I want to wear it. But I don't know. I loved coming out of class and having a deliverable, like having an item I could actually wear. And I think some of the most exciting ones were when I did my pair of pants for the first time, like a really great pair of pants. And then there was this really cute, almost like Jean Paul Gaultier outfit that was like a bustier, and the skirt that had a lot of seams down the front that was super cute. So those were the ones that had the best product at the end, were the ones that I liked the best. But I mean, you know how it was. It was your mom and then 4 ladies who were all about fashion and style sitting in the room. And so we spent a lot of time gossiping and talking and having a lot of fun girl time too. So I don't know. The whole thing was great.
Yeah. Lauren mentioned that as something unexpected that she appreciated.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I would like you to think, I'm going to give you a couple of different skill sets. And I want you to think about what your skill set was before the Fashion Lab and what it is now, and rank yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being extremely proficient, okay?
Okay.
So when you think about like your fine sewing techniques and how to finish garments professionally, what was it then and now?
It was a 1 then, and it's probably an 8 or a 9. Like, I know what it needs to look like now. I still don't think my personal execution is that great. So I would say from an understanding of what it should be, it's a 10. My ability to execute on that is probably an 8 or a 9, and it would depend on how slow I went. If I went really slow, I could get it right. Like I could do some really good straight stitching, but I have bad handwriting. So I don't know that I would ever be to a 10 for that. And I think if someone did a little more practicing, they'd probably be higher than that, but high 8 to 9, I would say.
Got it. Okay. How about how to make patterns?
I was probably a 2 or a 3. And now I would say I'm a 10, 100%.
Got it. Okay. How about fashion sketching and illustration?
I was probably a 1 or a 0. And I would say I'm probably a 9 or a 10 at this point.
Got it. How about putting together a fashion portfolio, like that whole process, Illustrator, and just kind of compiling it all together?
I mean, if I had I don't know, I guess I could have probably figured it out, but I would not have known about how to make it cohesive. That's where you go into, if you saw a portfolio online, could you figure out how to replicate one? Yes, I could do all the stuff that was a part of it. I could go to the store and find fabric samples and all that. But as far as like making it a truly cohesive collection and really looking like a professional collection, I think that would, and so I guess I would say I was probably maybe like a 5 coming into that. And now I feel like I'm a 10 with that, maybe a 9, because I did lean on words a lot more than pictures in some of my stuff, but I think very high 9 or 10.
Got it. Got it. All right. How about coming up with a design concept and then bringing it to life with your garment construction skills?
I had a lot of ideas before, so I would say I was maybe at like a 3, but I think at this point I can execute on those ideas, and so I would say I'm a 9 or a 10 in that area.
Got it. And then just a very short question. It's very direct. Are you happy with the skills you gained at the Fashion Lab?
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's it. Okay. All right. And now some questions to wrap up. Is there anything that you wished you had known before joining the Fashion Lab? If not, that's fine.
No, I guess not.
That's it. That's it. All right. And what would you say to any prospects interested in the Fashion Lab?
I think it's really like a best kept secret. It's, you guys do a whole lot to keep it price effective. And then you also have small classroom sizes, and you also have very thorough and very detailed curriculum. You really kind of compete and win on every level, I feel like, which means you probably need to go up on your prices. But for anyone who is able to get in now at the prices that they should. I think it's a great program. I really do.
Okay, thank you. And if you think about the ideal Fashion Lab candidate, what do you think, what are some of the traits and desires this person should have?
They need to be serious and they need to be focused. You're going to waste a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of money and a lot of other people's time and energy if you come in and if you don't take your class seriously. And so there's that. I think one thing that was a really big lesson learned was where do you spend a lot of time and where do you not spend a lot of time? So there's a lot of places where you can take 20 minutes to pin something perfectly. And then you're going to draw a stitch line that's going to take 15 seconds and you're going to pull all those pins out. So like, when do you really need to spend time and when do you not? And I think so people who get too caught up in super meticulous details and feel badly if they do something a little bit wrong, this is a very meticulous program. And so there's a lot of places where you can get caught up in that and hold yourself back. So I think you need to be confident in yourself. You need to be confident in your ability to say, I don't have to be 100% perfect straight out the gate. I'm going to look at this as a learning opportunity, and I may not win the first few battles, but I'm going to win the war at the end, kind of a thing. I think you need someone who's got that resilience because there is just such a learning curve with this. And then I would say, the person needs to want it. They need to want to be there, and they need to have a creative drive that doesn't allow them to not be there, kind of a thing. Like everyone in my class, they were super successful professionals outside of their fashion business that they were trying to get off the ground. But they just had a burning desire to make beautiful clothes and make women look beautiful in those clothes. And you either kind of have that or you don't. I think you either have something that's really connected you to the industry and to apparel as a medium, or you don't. And there's just so much that goes into it. It's so involved that if you really don't have a passion about it, there are other programs and other things you can do that are less time consuming, but if you do have a passion, then this is where you should be, because like I said so many times, it was amazing to me how comprehensive the program was and how well equipped I came out of it on the back end.
Courtney, thank you for such a an introspective conversation. I can tell you're a deep thinker, and your mind is always working and solving problems, and that probably comes by nature of who you are and also the work that you do. So thank you for taking the time to have this very heartfelt conversation with me, and for sharing some of the nuggets about the Fashion Lab and what your experience was like. Even though your 2-year journey with us is up, and we're so proud of you for having made it, even though you didn't think you could make it through 2 entire years with your lifestyle. We're proud of you, and for what you for what you've accomplished. And just know we continue to be small and family structured. So you continue to be a part of our family. So if you need us even after having completed the program with us, we'll be there for you.
That's awesome.
Message or a phone call or an email away.
That's awesome.
Thank you.